6:30, we are ready to go. I will call the special meeting of East Bay Charter Township Board to order on Monday, September 19th at 6:30. And if you'll join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi Connie, how are you?
I'm here.
Can you hear me? Connie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you guys hear me
great.
okay?
Yep, we can hear you. All right, you
Okay,
just
great.
sit tight and we'll be with you in a few.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and we'll do roll call.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Walters. Cook.
Here.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Lyle.
Here.
M. Cortade.
Here.
Friend.
Here. Excellent, thank you. This is a special meeting. You have the agenda in front of you. It includes a public hearing for the Emergency Services Special Assessment District, which is the fire, police, and ambulance funds. We also have on the agenda Safe Routes to School Engineering Phase 1 and the county ARPA applications. Does anybody have a conflict of interest to declare based on that agenda? Okay, since there are none declared, is there a motion for approval of the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Bartlett, support by Walters. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed by no? Okay, we have an agenda. With that, we'll move forward to public comment. If there's any member of the public who would like to join us for public comment, they're welcome to come up to the podium. And seeing none, we'll move forward. Business before the Township Board. This is the public hearing for the Emergency Services Special Assessment District. In your packet, you will see the legal notice that was in the Record Eagle. You also have the budgets that have been before you before for Grand Traverse Metro Emergency Services Authority. And you also have the budget for the police fund, 207, and the ambulance fund at 210. They are, again, collectively are 4.01 mils, with the fire fund at 2.75, the police fund at 0.26, and the ambulance fund at 1.0 mils. So first we'll open this up for public hearing very first and take any comments on that, and then we'll close it and bring that back to the board for potential motion. It's 6:33, and we will open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to comment on either the Emergency Services Special Assessment District, again, fire, police, and ambulance? Okay, seeing none, and I don't see anybody in the vestibule, no any cars rolling in, we will close the public hearing at 6:33 p.m., showing no public comment was made, and bring that back to the board. Again, the budget in front of you for Metro goes through about the third page of the packet, back to page 29. You will note there is the resolution in here, Sue? Yeah. Page 20. Do we have a resolution number?
It would be 2022-15.
15? Okay. And so the resolution for 2022-15 is the standard resolution that we received from Grand Traverse Metro, which documents the motion that came from Metro's board and spells out, and that therefore be it resolved, the financial, the amount of the budget, and then the stratification of those funds across the three townships. For East Bay Township, it is $1,851,951. It also commits us to distributing all of the revenue to Metro by May 15th, which is not an issue since it is collected prior to that. And then also notes that we can use any combination of a millage rate and general fund contribution. And this was, again, posted in that public hearing with a public notification at 2.75 mils, which is equal to that amount that was stated. So with that, Pat, do you have anything else to add? I mean, you've been before us on this board. I guess I would just probably really ask just to, if the board has any questions for Pat. And I don't want to stop you from saying anything, but, you know, I know we've talked about the budget.
I just had, just one quick question I was curious about. What is under, I don't know, what is this?
Why don't you give us the page number first?
Yeah, sorry. Page 7?
Is that the handwritten 7,
It's
or
the
is that
handwritten
ours?
7, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Page 11.
okay.
Under expenditures, I guess, Department 7, is it 718, the retirement? I don't, know how y'all's retirement system works. Is this a pension, or is it like a traditional 401K?
Sure, Pat Parker, Metro Fire Chief. So what we have in Metro is, it's like a 401K, except it has different letters for government.
Okay,
But
Okay.
it's
Defined contribution.
Defined contribution, and right now Metro's putting like 10% of our straight time gross into this fund.
okay.
Now, there previously was a defined benefit many years ago that has been phased out of Metro, and there's also been medical coverage in retirement years that has been phased out with just very, very few individuals who still have coverage under that program.
That's the only thing I was curious about is with pensions come, additional funding when markets go down, which we're seeing right now, so,
We have no underfunded pension plan.
good, okay.
Yeah,
I'm just concerned about the 2 to 3% pay increases. I'm concerned that that's not enough with what's going on in the market around us, and just wanting to make sure that we have enough in the budget so that we are able to retain the staff that we currently have. That's my.
Thank you for that, for recognizing that. We are thankful to the board. When we look at wages, we also look at the benefit packages as well. And so right now, it appears that our healthcare is going to probably go up anywhere between 9 and 11%. So we factor that in as well. But as it turned out this year, the Metro Board gave all of our employees 3% at the beginning of the year, and then come March or April, the board did come back and give us an additional 2. We appreciate that. So it's so hard to know what the labor market's going to look like next year or the year after that.
The other thing that is in here, but probably not as specific as I think it maybe should be, is how we're going to recruit and how we can get more bodies in the fire department, in the sheriff's department, in the ambulance, in the future. What I think that, might be not right this second, I just want to bring it up, is that we need to focus on how are we going to get people in the future, because, we've had, lots of stories about the Great Resignation and the, but it's really the baby boomers have left. And, we don't have the families and the sizes that we did in the past, and there's just less people. So we have to figure out how we can focus and get people in to these roles in the future, and maybe that's more education and people being excited about what you guys do. But just something that it's not really budget related, but it is, because it's gonna affect us greatly in the future if we don't figure out how to do something now, whether it's more, incentives and grants and scholarships for kids to, go into programs that will get them in these fields.
I think a couple things with us is the fact that we're a busy department, so these young people, be they, it doesn't really matter how excited you get doing other jobs. People like helping people. So we've got that going for us. We also have our training, so we take these people and we take them beyond the comfort zones. We're teaching these people hazmat, tech rescue, trench rescues, collapse. We send a team over to Gaylord during the tornado. That gets people excited. It isn't all wages, because you can offer people pie in the sky. They still have to be happy where they're at. Today, members of the Metro Board, our personnel committee met, and I heard a term that I had never heard before from Stacy, our Human Resources Director, is we do exit interviews, but we don't do stay interviews. And so she's pulling people in from time to time to see, what keeps you here? What are some things that excite you? What are some things that we can do? And the big thing is just firefighters, paramedics, idle time is bad for them. So we just try to keep people busy. But no, thank you for that.
Yeah, those are great comments. I think that you would be very pleased at, with the level of attention that the administration and the board has given those topics. Everything from the reflection on the wages mid-year that happened last year, to making sure that benefit package is robust. And then I was thinking the same thing when you were speaking of, I think that in particular, they've had an excellent hire in their HR that has really aided in that. And obviously now what's changed over the past, recent for Metro is that it's a unionized organization. So, that's a different component too when you're talking about wages. But having come out of that meeting today, I feel like they have an excellent handle on what the needs and requests are for those firefighters.
I just wanted to bring it up. I think it's something that, is out there, and, wages appear to be going up everywhere. Everybody's still hiring. I heard today, I was talking to my HR person, she said we're 4 million people down just because of COVID. Between 1.5 million dying and somewhere between 2.5 and 4.5 million people that have long COVID and haven't returned to the workforce. That's just 4 million people right there. That doesn't count, even touch the baby boomers. So, but what's coming up is a smaller population than what is left, and we just need to pay attention to how we are going to make it so that we have people that are going to want to do this job and help them to, get the training and the certificates that allow us to hire them, and so that's just my thought, and I appreciate them time to express it.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, with that, do we have additional questions or comments on
We
that?
are the employer of choice. Metro is the employer of choice. It is where people would seek out to be, and to continue to keep that package competitive or more than competitive is going to help. Here at the township level, we passed a policy that we would look at the CPI and the COLA, and no matter what those were, we would not go backwards. It would be a minimum of 3% when those numbers were lower, but when those numbers are higher, we adopted a budget with wages that were at that higher rate. I think that helps to show our employees that they're valued. It would be nice if there was discussion at Metro's level to be able to do that as well. And then it's not always a question. They know that they're going to get at least whatever that amount is with a minimum of 3%.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and they actually do have that policy. As a matter of fact, we took some of the stats from them, so they have that in place. I mean, not verbatim, word for word, but they have that policy that they follow as well in looking at that.
So isn't COLA going to be weighted more than 2 to 3 this year?
Well, again, as Pat mentioned, it's looked at holistically with the benefit package as well, and the budget, and what we're able to do with that. But again, last year, what we did was we passed what we thought we could do. And remember, that was early in the year as well, too. And then we revisited that as appropriate. And actually, the union negotiations make us do that on a very specific cycle.
Because I think right now COLA is at 8.5.
I just looked it up, and they're saying Social Security COLA is going to be 9%.
I think the biggest thing you got going, though, is housing. I just read where, from 2020 to 2022, housing in the Grand Traverse region went up 48%. I had to read it twice because I didn't, but I think that's the biggest hurdle that, as a community, we have.
Right, well, which would make the 24-hour stays in resident housing that much more appealing to the firefighters. Because if they're young single folks or older single folks, they know they have a bed to lay down in, they have a lounge and a dining hall there, and they're going to be able to respond from there. It's our family members that are having that problem trying to negotiate housing.
So you'll find the resolution for your consideration on page 20 of the packet. And is there a motion presented?
I just have one more question. Where are we in the process? Have the other 2 townships passed this resolution, or is it still coming before them?
So Acme Township, both townships have had their public hearing. Acme Township has passed 2.75. Garfield Township has passed 2.6. And then they would like to keep it at 2.6, but contractually, they, depending on how the rest of the majority votes, they would have to fund 2.75. They recognize that, and if they have to do so, then they will do that out of their general fund.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to pass Resolution 2022-15 if we could put an R on charter.
Yeah, saw that too.
Support.
I would, oh,
There's no title on this resolution. Usually there's a,
it's.
I didn't write the
budget
resolution.
I think it's because all of them are included in that.
The same. So there's a motion to approve Resolution 20-22, I'm sorry, 2022-15, which is the 2023 budget resolution for the Charter Township of East Bay. I think that's their title there, right up the top there. And that is put forth by Walters and supported by Courtade. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote, Ann?
Walters.
yes.
Escortate.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
M. Cortate.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
You are welcome. So the only other motion we really need on that then is for the Emergency Services Special Assessment District for 4.01 mills. There isn't necessarily a specific resolution for the other 2. We can do a motion for those budgets.
And do we need to decide which of the 2 versions you presented for the ambulance?
For East Bay Ambulance, that would be fine. I put both of them in here, but what I did here collectively was a preference, or an acceptance rather, of the budget that's on page 36, which has the increased staffing level of 1 additional FTE.
That's what the millage is based on.
Well, the millage is actually, as you can see, for both. You would really need it for both, and even, actually, we could probably tweak it up based on that additional FTE. But if you'll recall that 48,000 that is utilized for fund balance, that rationale was some of that will be capital, and as well, we're doing pretty good on our differential in our planned use for this year. But we've had a lot of repairs this year. We were just going over that, so we'll see how that ends up holding up toward the end of the year. But I think what would be probably a good solid way is a motion on the 207 police fund budget, a motion on the 210 budget with a designation of, which of those expenditure estimates that we're basing that on. And then also, just for clarification, to make sure that we have a motion for that overall 4.01 for the emergency services millage.
I do have a question on the ambulance.
Sure.
I appreciate the discussion on everything on this cover sheet.
Nick.
I know everything runs together. I don't know what page it is. It's this one. Is that what it is? Okay. It states that you have figured out, or you have built in wage adjustments, wage increases, but it doesn't state what that is. What numbers are you looking at?
We did this on an average. What we ended up was we did the budget based on an average wage amount, not necessarily the percentage increase. But that average wage amount was increased from what the current average was.
Last year, we did 7.9.
I think it was around there. I can't remember the exact percentage that we discussed. We built it to create the COLA increase and then with a market adjustment like we've done in the past to try to make sure that we're in the middle with everybody else. And we're not completely sure where all those numbers fall. We're still doing our market analysis to figure that out. And we'll have the wage adjustments that are needed for the October, I think, November.
I think it's actually the November meeting. Mhm.
Yeah, because last year we did 5.9 plus 2% as a market adjustment. And then after the fact, we found out the COLA, it went up higher. But I just, based on that, if it goes up higher, I just want to make sure that we're covered, because it's important to retain the quality staffing that way as well. So you've got enough built in to cover another full-time plus part-timers.
Yep.
Based on at least that 7.9.
Yep.
And I remember too, I'm reminded when I go to budget workshops as well too, this is a government budget. So while yes, we use it for planning, what this really is the legal ability for you to expend those funds under those line items. So those can be adjusted, as you know. So if we have a situation where the percentage is different and it makes an impact, we can make that adjustment.
And that's why we built it on an average. So it gives us the sweet spot that sometimes you can pull from the lower numbers that we make sure to cover everything.
Appreciate that, thank you.
So is there a motion on Fund 207?
I would make a motion, it's 207, I always forget. I would make a motion to approve the millage in the budget for 207 at the .26 mils. Is that what you wanted?
That's fine.
I didn't get a dollar amount there.
Oh, you're on page 31 with the,
Yeah, but it's like.
oh. Okay, is there support?
I support it.
Okay. Motion by Bartlett and support by Walters. Further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by no? Okay, that is the budget for the police fund, Fund 206. We'll move on to the ambulance fund, which is 210 with 1.0 mils suggested, and two options for the budget based on moving forward.
So I make a motion to accept the budget at 1.0 mils for 2023 for the ambulance fund 210, using the spreadsheet increasing full-time staff by 1.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Oh my God.
Take your pen.
Okay, and well, motion is made by Escortate, support, you were the loudest, Matt. Good, that's what you get for having the deeper voice there. Support by Cook. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by no? Okay. Thank you, appreciate it. Let's see. We've now approved the 2.75, the 0.26 for police fund, and 1.0 for ambulance fund. I think we're fine with that, but for good measure, will someone give me a motion to approve 4.01?
So moved.
Okay, for the emergency services millage. Okay, and support, okay. Motion made by Escortate, supported by Bartlett. Further discussion? It's really just a motion and adding, but still, we'll have it. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by no? Okay, very good, thank you. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate the work. Okay, we will move on to Safe Routes to School Engineering. So you have the cover sheet in here. As you know, yep, sure.
Do we need to motion that you sign that?
We actually don't need approval of it. I just put it in there so you guys can see it. We actually really don't even need the emergency services on there technically, believe it or not. Those are just on there. The county likes them, the state. Yeah, the state likes them too. And just for transparency, it's nice. And that's the reason I put the notations on there. Because if someone ever does pull that up, I don't want them inadvertently applying that to the ad valorem tax, but I want them to know that it's just on the real property tax.
To do them too, but there's been, you probably have had the same discussion on your treasurer's forum. Our clerk's forum has been talking left and right about needing this to be approved at the board level.
We can, you're welcome to put a motion. I don't recall that's been before, and I looked back at the records and it hadn't been supplied before, but we're welcome to. I mean, you've approved them.
Didn't you?
Huh? I did, I don't think they spoke about that specifically, but you're welcome to. Matter of fact, Tracy, did you just make a motion?
Sure.
Okay, motion by Bartlett and support by Walters to approve the L4029 as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by no? All right, thank you very much. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to Safe Routes to School. And you have the cover sheet here, as well as a letter from Connie Hauk. Connie is with us via Zoom, and appreciate you doing that. Connie was going to drive over from Alpena today, and I told her that seems kind of, unnecessary, but maybe just conference in. So one of the things, and you won't hear this in a press release because we can't do that yet, but we've been conditionally approved, and I think you've heard this before, conditionally approved for the Safe Routes to School infrastructure spending. So that's $1 million in infrastructure plus $100,000 in programming. And that programming is done through Norte, and Claire and Connie have been in contact with Norte and their staff, and looking forward at what they're doing. But a lot of that will come in conjunction with the infrastructure going in. But I will turn this over to Connie, and she can kind of explain the point that we're at in the process. If you recall, I hired Connie after speaking with the board about using her as a consultant with the experience that they had with Safe Routes to School. And I think that was definitely proof in the pudding, because one of the comments that we had come back was that they were very impressed with the application that Connie put together. The grant coordinator said their board had very positive things to say about it, and so we appreciated that. And I just want to continue, we're looking at continuing on with her. I will say this because Connie isn't a part of this process, but I did take a look at the rates that Connie charges, an hourly rate, and make sure those are commensurate with Wade Trim. As a matter of fact, their low side, the span of what we pay per hour depends on the personnel who's conducting the work. On the low side, they're about equal. I think they're about $4 difference, and Prine and Newhoff is just a shade lower. And then on the high side, they don't go as high as Wade Trim does, and I think there's about, I think it's about $50 difference or something like that. So they're right in that span there with Wade Trim as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Connie and talk about what the next phase looks like.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Sorry, I had a meeting in Alpena today. I had to work out in the field up here, so otherwise I would definitely be there. I'm from Cadillac office, if you recall. So anyway, this is this preliminary engineering, all the items that I've itemized in this proposal letter that I turned into Beth. These are the things that can halt your project. Right now with that conditional commitment, we're planning on 2024 construction. There are certain things that have to be done in place to keep going forward. And these are the items that I broke out and would like to get these tasks done so that they don't delay your project. Sometimes these reviews for these specific items can take anywhere from 3 months to 6 months, 9 months if there are huge cultural issues or something with the SHPO. So what I broke out is the geotechnical engineering. So that would be the drilling. We have to get that underneath all of the pathways, sidewalks, and especially the boardwalks. We need to get that information for the bearing capacity on our boardwalks so that we can get those, they can get designed later in the process. The environmental review, that is any of the threatened and endangered species. That review is something that MDOT requires, and it's pretty extensive. We have a lot of experience with that because I do a lot of MDOT projects, but that's a good thing to get a head start on as well, just in case if there's any issues that come up. And then the SHPO review. SHPO has become more and more involved with reviewing projects. So with that, there's both an archaeological and a historical review. And the SHPO process generally for me takes about 3 months to get that through the whole thing so that you can get clearance for the project. The other thing we have is during our grant application, we put together a lot of cross sections and different layouts that we can get down on some base plans for you guys so that that's all ready to go. So this is all phase 1. Okay. The next phase after that would be the actual preliminary engineering. I mean, to get them to preliminary plans. That would then go into MDOT for a grade inspection meeting. And then the third step is final design. And that gets it actually to a bid package. And that, with a 2024 construction, you'd want to get it turned in and have them MDOT would let it in probably January of 2024 so that it's ready to go for construction during summer of 2024. Okay?
All right, great. Thank you, Connie. There are questions from the board with respect to the scope of work for this phase. Again, very similar to, we use Wade Trim as our engineer in-house for planning and zoning, water and sewer, and so forth. And very similar, if you'll recall, Wade Trim, we authorized them to do an increased study on Lift Station 1. This is very similar to that. This is a consultant that we use, but this is a specific part or piece of what they're doing. And I want to be able to make sure that we document that and allocate funds for that and have the board approve that. So that's how this item is before you at this point. And to bring you up to speed with where we're at with safe routes to school. And one of the things that we've also done is worked with the road commission and about them doing some of the surveying. So that helps save some of the costs. And we're still in talks with them about that. They were very receptive to the idea, but they've also had, I understand, some staffing changes and shifts in that surveying. So we'll, obviously hope to still advance that and have them do the surveying, but we'll let you know if anything on that changes. Any questions for Connie?
That was going to be my only comment. I know we talked about this a while back when we first kind of came together to approve Safe Routes to School, is, some kind of general discussion about duplication of effort, and just wanted to make sure that, it sounds like y'all are talking to the road commission, that as much as possible, maybe y'all are trying to share some of those costs. And I get it, our timeline may be 2 years or 3 years ahead of whatever the road commission's going to do with that intersection. It just would be nice to, not duplicate costs or, with whatever that interchange is going to turn out to be.
Yep, and we have been involved with, they have invited us. As a matter of fact, they had a meeting, 2 or 3 weeks ago, where they invited Claire, and Brian Souza was in that meeting, was involved the utility infrastructure, basically in planning for what they intend to do. And that, I can't speak to what their plans are specifically, but I know they were taking into account, okay, what's going on in this, general area. So just so we do avoid things like that. And I appreciate that, especially, we do try to think ahead of that, like we did in placing those utilities under the roundabout as well. And one of the reasons, I don't know if you remember this, but one of the reasons I had suggested Connie and Prine and Newhoff for this project was Connie worked for MDOT. And so she's worked on these projects on both sides of the table. And she also has worked with Wayne Schoonover. I think you guys were both at MDOT together, correct?
Yeah, we were. We went to college and MDOT together. Yeah.
So they've worked very well together through this project. So with that, I would be looking for a motion to move forward with the services in the September 16th Prine and Newhoff letter. And then we would bring back, based on this timing, we would bring back a budget allocation if necessary for you. So it might not be all of the 19.5 in the 2022 year. It might be stratified between 2022 and 2023.
I make a motion to approve the Phase 1 proposal from Prine Newhoff for engineering Phase 1 of Safe Routes to School project.
Support.
Okay, motion is made by Bartlett and supported by Cook. Further discussion?
Just one last other comment. I'm assuming that all of this work, all the soil borings and the survey work is all public right away?
Yeah, there are a couple spots where we may need some grading permits, just to get the slope down. Intersection like Sarah Drive. So that would be something that also, grading permits, not like permanent easements, just for the earthwork restoration. And then also at the school entrances, we have to connect into their sidewalk system. So that is something that the school would, we'd put before them so that they could give an easement for that connection point as well.
Okay.
And Claire and I have met with the TCAPS facilities director, who they have worked, obviously, TCAPS with Safe Routes to School before and are not new to it. And so they were very receptive to the idea and aware of the process.
Okay.
Okay, further questions? Okay, there's a motion by Bartlett, support by Cook. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by no?
No.
Okay, show that M. Cortade is a dissenting vote, and motion passes. Okay, Connie, thank you very much for being here with us tonight.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
You do the same. You're welcome to stick around, but, go get some dinner or something, okay?
Okay,
All right.
thank you. Okay, bye.
Okay, Next on our agenda is the county ARPA funding applications. And you remember in July, we talked about this and, oh, goodness gracious, we're on the screen. That's a little startling to see that. I didn't expect to see that. So you'll remember in July, we talked about these applications. There was a motion to put them forth in the August process that the county had outlined. These were done by staff early in the year and put forth to the Grand Traverse Regional, Sue, bottom drawer, it's not in the stacking thing, put forth to the Regional Community Foundation in that, I want to say like April timeframe. That was just an inventory listing of projects in the region. The county had outlined a process where they would start accepting information in August, and so that's what I brought to you in July that was passed. We did submit those. That was an informational gathering process. They then have opened their formal application process from September 1st to October 31st. So the next level has some increased, appropriately so, some increased level of detail for each of those projects, and a more involved application. Not unreasonable, but just more involved. So as staff time is limited, I've worked with Carl Ferguson to see if he was available, and he is, to submit the applications on behalf of the township. And as we looked at it, we realized that, you know, some of these, as you can see, he kind of put them in a spreadsheet here. As I mentioned, this is just a draft internal document, so this isn't, this is just general information based on our notes. And then you have the application in here as well, so you can get a sense of what that's like. But he also included, where did I see it? It should be on the next page, yeah. Kind of what the public ranking was out of the county's survey, as well as their RPAC committee, what their preferences are for priority areas and how they rank. So remember, though, that regardless of that, all of this will go back to the county board. So the county board will end up receiving all of the applications in totality, plus the RPAC recommendation. And the assumption is obviously that they would rate very highly the ones that have ranked high and are recommended by the RPAC subcommittee. However, it is a process, and they do have access to all of those applications, because we had thought about, do we want to sift out some of those that we don't feel will rank as high based on their prioritization. But we feel like, just after kind of talking about it and visiting with some people, that we probably, if you don't put it in there, then it can't be considered, right?
Don't ask, you don't know.
Right. But so the one thing, and I could have just gone off of the July board motion to put these all in for an application. But the one thing, and I found this when I was doing the August informational, was what's that commitment, right? They want to know, so let's just, it's a $200,000 project. What is the commitment being associated with it? Well, we didn't have, when someone says commitment to me, I'm looking for, right, like board motion, some allocation and a budget, something that I can produce that shows that. And of course, we didn't have those on all of those. We just have them as projects that the township's interested in. For the initial informational submission, that was fine. I just included a note that, township has a history of matching, 50% on successful grant applications, and that's what we would proceed to do. And I think some of them might have been 25%, whatever was applicable. But for this round, they are looking for something more specific, an actual allocation. Well, each of these projects, while they're viable projects that we have information in, and there's work been done on these projects, we don't necessarily have the amount that goes with it. And going through and doing each of those, I mean, it's not like we won't get all of them. There's $18 million allocated to the county, and that's before they've carved out what they'll be retaining for county use. So, I mean, hypothetically, right, if they are taking the $10 million exemption, that could be $8 million, which doesn't go very far with infrastructure projects. So I thought one way, and I posed this to administration and some county commissioners, is could we do a resolution that would assure them that they know that we are committed financially to partnering with them, without going through and saying, okay, motion on this one, or exactly where everything's coming from. I did take a look at all of these projects, and, I mean, even if we did 50% on these, given that, so for example, that pump station, that's not all ours anyway, right, by contract, that's a partnership project. But if you take a look at what 50% would be, hypothetically, you know, it could be done, right? Because otherwise, if it couldn't, I would have included in this resolution a maximum amount. So like, we will partner at a percentage up to a maximum amount of, let's just say 1 million was our absolute max that we could spend before we couldn't spend any more. Then we would have put up to a maximum from these funds. But all of these don't come from the general fund. Some come from the water funds, the sewer fund, and the general fund, and is hypothetically feasible. So I didn't include that maximum. I just left it, as you see on the resolution. What it does is it pledges our financial partnership at 50% funding match on all project applications awarded by the Board of Commissioners, with any noted exceptions. And the exceptions are two. One, that pump station project, because that is between two townships and has a different percentage breakout. So that is requested at 25% for county, and then augmented with state and federal funds. And then the Safe Routes to School project, and that was not included at 50% because we don't need that ratio. It's $1 million from the infrastructure grant, and it is, is it 1.1 or 1.2? Let me look here. Yeah, 1.1 that will be coming in from other places. But we're looking at a $1.3 million project because that infrastructure is probably going to be higher than that 1 million. So we're looking at 200,000 for that. So that is a different percentage there, and it works out to be about 15%. So this resolution would then just basically go along with the applications that are put into the county, and would signal and assure to the RPAC committee, and then also to the Board of Commissioners, that we are committed to financially partnering with them based on their allocations if we are successful.
Question. I don't know if you know the answer to this yet, because they seem to release information slowly. Like other grant processes, we're able, you know, say we got 5 of these or something, and we decided we couldn't or didn't choose to do our 50% on them or whatever, our portion. Can we refute? Can we
Reject.
Decline a grant?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you can decline a grant. There's,
Okay.
I mean,
I just,
yeah.
we
Sure.
can most others, but
Yeah.
I didn't know if they had specified that,
Yeah.
and I hate to put it
I don't
out because
an-
I don't want them to think we are going to do that.
Right, right.
You know.
I don't anticipate that we would. We would be probably thrilled and appreciative
Oh, yeah.
of whatever award that they would
No,
see
but-
fit.
You know, maybe nobody else is asking.
Right, right. Yeah. I wish that were the case.
I know,
The number of applications they're expecting is pretty high.
But
Is there, I know there's probably not a whole lot of clarity to what the county's actually going to spend on their own, like, self-directed
They
projects.
haven't
but
decided that yet.
Is there any flavor of what it might be?
No, I do not have that. Between, I'm pretty sure it's not zero.
Yeah.
And it could be easily up to 10 million.
17,999,000.
Well, yes, but remember, they don't, yes, but for them not to have to adhere to meet to a bunch of things, they're limited to that 10 million for the lost revenue. Because once you go beyond that, then you have to hit a whole lot of parameters or requirements for the funds.
Have they given any kind of guidance, direction? I know they've hired this third
Public
party to come
service.
in and
Public
help-
sector.
Yeah, help kind of assess. But have they otherwise given any kind of indication on how they're gonna weight it?
Well, yeah, a little bit, yeah, some, because you'll see on that page, on the next page after this table, so it's page 54, you'll see kind of their priority, that's the RPAC committee right there. So you can see that their top priorities are infrastructure, workforce housing, mental health, childcare, and increasing the number of skilled employees to fill in-demand jobs, exactly what Mindy was talking about earlier. So those are kind of their 5 high points. And you can see their secondary ones. And again, that public rank, what they're talking about there is they did do a survey of the community, and those are based on the results that they had from the community. So there are, like I said, there are some of ours that might score better than others, particularly infrastructure, right? Because not only have they listed that as a priority, but the public has listed that as a priority. And so some of those infrastructure ones may rank much higher than some other ones. Actually, I do think we did talk about, Carl and I did talk about potentially removing that comprehensive rec planning and that US 31 corridor placemaking, and those are for 2 reasons. One, the comprehensive rec planning, we think we can do that in-house between Claire and Sarah Capriva, who's with Beckett and Rader, that's working with the Parks Commission. And we think that we could do that. And plus, that's a standard responsibility of the township. That's not something that's, critical or ingenious or transformational. It's part of just the work process. So, I guess my recommendation would be to leave that one out. But other than that, I think the 31 corridor placemaking, the reason we had talked about that one a little bit was we felt like it probably was not up the alley that they were looking for, and we had some other ideas for some different funding sources. Again, though, I go back to, doesn't necessarily hurt to put it in. They can just disregard that if it doesn't match their priorities.
Question, I don't have a problem with this list that you got made out here, but what come to mind was under the iron removal filtration. And I realize that every so many years, the media has to be replaced. Is the capacity for the iron removal plant, at one time, they talked about it starting to get up to the top of the capacity, and I know when they build it, it was supposed to be able to expand it out. With the other water tower, has that eliminated the load on the iron removal plant?
So I don't know the specific answer to that question. I can find that out for you. I can tell you that no issues or concerns have been brought to me from Brian or from John regarding that. And specifically with these filtration systems, they've been able to utilize that media much longer than expected while it's still performing how it should.
Okay.
So are we at resolution 16?
Yes.
So I would make a motion to approve resolution 2022-16, committing matching funds for projects submitted to the Grand Traverse County ARPA funding application process as listed in this draft document.
Okay, is there support? Okay, motion by Bartlett and support by Walters. Further discussion?
You had mentioned there was a couple of these that you were considering taking off the list, and there's a question marks along a lot of the bottom ones, I guess, for what their priority area is. But
Yeah.
if we're making a motion, we're passing this tonight based on this list, are you going to be able to modify this after the meeting?
So I wouldn't modify it based on the motion. And I would suggest potentially modifying that to remove the comprehensive rec planning.
This table
But-
isn't part of this resolution.
That's true. It is not.
It's an internal draft document, but I just, for reference
Okay.
purposes, I just reference.
Yeah, but the content of the comment is still the same, though. This was included in the July motion, and so it would likely be put in there. Again, I'm not sure I see the harm in it, other than, the thought is you don't want to inundate or irritate. But I don't know that one project's going to inundate or irritate or make or break one.
It sounds like they're getting lots of projects.
Right, right. So I think if it's okay with you, we'll leave the motion to approve the resolution as it is without the reference to the chart. Is that fine?
Okay.
And is that fine? Okay. And then from further discussion from the board, what would be your preference for direction for me on that comprehensive rec planning?
I think we should take it out in the US 31 corridor planning. I don't think that those are the priorities that they're looking for. But I also, with regards to column 3, where all the question marks are, I think if it's a parks related, it's mental and behavioral health.
Yeah, there's a reason I put draft internal document over here. So those question marks, this was something that Carl and I were working on. He threw these into the table just so he could better see the comprehensive list, because I had them in, when I gave them to him, they were literally all of the submissions that we sent over to the county or to the foundation. So they were literally like reading the a pared down application. And so he simplified it and put it on this. His question marks weren't to say, this doesn't make sense, or I'm not sure what this is. It was just, we hadn't fleshed that out on exactly the wording or the phrasing or how it would fit in there. So I kind of second guessed supplying this to you, but I really like the format that he put it in and encapsulated it.
Yeah, because I would say the 31 corridor could easily enhance small business and support economic development, because that's what that whole corridor is. And slowing people down, which is part of the placemaking, is calming effects, would make a difference for them down there. But I'm fine with.
Yeah, and he will take a look at that project, and he knows what the intent of the project is. We've gone over all of that, so then he will make it the strongest application that he can from that. So, again, we can submit that. The one that really stands out to me is that comprehensive rec planning. It's just something that we do.
That's what we have to do every 5 years anyway,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Is there a scenario where they could award us less than what the request is for each of these projects?
Probably, but they haven't identified that yet.
Okay.
It's right here in their questions.
What page is that one on, Mindy?
This is a relatively new document, isn't it?
Yes.
Partial award, describe if the organization will be able to complete this project if only partial funding is awarded. So they're already
Right.
asking us how we're gonna do it.
And
with
we-
a partial award.
Yeah. And we'll take a look at that for each of those and see, okay, number one, can our, what does it say, our sewer fund, can it handle that? Is there another state or federal grant that's applicable for it? those items. But I would venture to say we will definitely, likely make that argument for most of these. So say, for example, Hammond Road Sewer, which I know is a priority, it's 487,000. Would we still make use of 250 or 350,000? You bet we would. Okay, so there is a motion by Bartlett, supported by Walters. That was for passage of Resolution 2022-16 solely, right? Okay. Further discussion on that? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Ann?
Bartlett.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. And then direction on the county ARPA funds. Did you put that into a motion or, okay. How about we just, maybe we leave off that comprehensive rec planning? I'd like to maybe flesh that out a little bit more with Carl as far as the 31 placemaking.
I am supportive of putting as many in as possible to see what shakes out.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any specific thoughts on the comprehensive rec planning, though? Are you fine with that being left out as our traditional work?
It's fine. That's what,
Yeah. Okay with that.
Okay, we'll just have a consensus decision on that, and I'll let Carl know that we'll pull that out.
But I think the funding over here needs to have some work too, because like, if we're saying we're doing 50%, but on the Echo vehicle, it says, you know, we're doing nothing, so
Yeah,
we need to make sure that that is all figured out as well.
yep. Okay, actually, I think that one is maybe a typo on that, because I think that's a $70,000 total.
Again, it just
Yeah.
needs to be flushed out, that's why it's a
Yeah.
draft.
Okay, so with that, we have a motion on the, we have an approval on the resolution. We have direction on the content of the applications, or which applications. And we're at the end of our agenda. We do have public comment. We don't have any public here, so don't see any public comment to be made. Our upcoming meeting, we do have our regular meeting, October 10th. It's a regular meeting. And if there's no further discussion, then we stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Yes,
I would like to see us schedule our budget meetings.
in October.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you send out a doodle for it and maybe make that towards the end of October?
Well, then that puts us right on the November election, which is going to be hard to get the room and the timing.
Okay, so
So
we'll,
earlier would be preferred in case we have to have a second meeting.
sure, well, we haven't usually had to have a second meeting,
I
but,
think in the past, we used to schedule them and cancel the second one if we didn't need it. But
yeah, we'll take a look at the
I will send
calendar
out
and
a
get some
doodle and See
dates.
what everybody's availability is.
Sounds good. Okay, we stand adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight.